Well, hello everyone and good morning. My name is Jay Berkowitz and I'm pleased to present this month's webinar. Our topic today is Google pay-per-click or PPC ads. And I want to give a big thank you and shout out to Dylan. And he helped me prepare all the slides and he was going to present some of the slides today. But unfortunately he said he got food poisoning and he's as sick as he's ever been. So I'll be your host, moderator, and speaker today. And I want to get right into it. What is pay-per-click? So if you do a search, a Google search for personal injury lawyer near me, the pay-per-click, the paid ads, are the portion that sits at the top of PPC. And that's what the consumer is going to see first, whether they're on a desktop or a phone. The second thing they see are the Google Maps, the second portion here, what Google calls Google My Business. When you log in to make adjustments, your address, your hours, that's what they call Google My Business. And if you do well, you come up in that 3-pack. But again, today we're focused on the Google Ads, the PPC, and the SEO, the search engine optimization, comes down below the maps now. And there's 10 SEO results per page, like there was from the first days of Google. But today we're focused on this PPC section. Now, if you go to 10goldenrules.com and go to our blog and you want to learn all about maps or SEO, we've done previous webinars and you can find the recordings from those webinars. But today we're here for PPC. Now, I get this question all the time. Does it work? Does PPC work? Well, the bulk of Google's $162 billion worth of revenue comes from Google advertising. So absolutely it works, or advertisers wouldn't come back again and again. But you know what I love about Google paid advertising, and in general the paid advertising, we'll talk about some of the different vehicles. I started my career working for McDonald's, and then I was a director of marketing at Coca-Cola. And back in those days it was frustrating because we knew advertising worked. We just didn't know what worked or what component parts worked. Did the billboards work, or the TV ads, or the radio ads? When we started a new campaign, sales would go up, but we couldn't attribute it directly to what worked. So I shared the frustration of John Wanamaker, who is attributed with this quote: "I know half of my advertising's wasted, I just don't know which half." Or, "I know half of my advertising working, I just don't know which half." But the reason I love online marketing, and in particular pay-per-click marketing, is we can measure our return on investment to the penny. And this is really, really precise in Google Ads. So for example, this is a Google ad campaign. And I just want to make sure everything's working here. I'm just going to have one quick check. We know all this stuff's working. And this is a campaign. We spent $25,000. This is over about a month and a half. 1,649 people either clicked or called or did some kind of action. We had 291 conversions. So those conversions are leads. They're calls, chats, or form fills. So somebody clicked on an ad or went to our website and called. We'll talk about call tracking in a minute. They did a chat action, or they filled out a form. And the cost per lead was $87. The cost per conversion was $87.10. So again, we know to the penny if it's working, how it's working. And then we go one step further where we attribute which leads from which sources became paid clients. So if you're a law firm or a professional service firm or an internet marketing agency, we can attribute precisely how many calls we got, how many clients were retained from phone calls, how many chats, the little chat box, we'll talk about that, and the percentage retained, how many people filled out a form on the website. The total leads 291 here, and 51 clients retained or signed up through this particular program in this particular month. So what I love is you can measure your return on investment to the penny. Now here's just one sort of geeky thing that I love. This is relatively new information that Google's made available for about 6 months. And it's called multi-factor attribution, or multi-factor conversions. And I find this interesting that 248 of the conversions, 248 of the leads, this is another campaign for another attorney client. but 248 of those conversions came in first to the website through an organic search, through a natural organic SEO search, and then they came back to the website direct by typing in the website address. The second lead source, they clicked on a paid search ad, and then they came back through organic search. So they found the company through a paid ad, and then they did another search, maybe searching for their name and coming back in. The next one, sorry, a little hot on the buzzer there. The next one was paid search to direct. So they found the company through paid search, they found their website, and then they typed it in directly. So I always say it's like, let's say someone's injured in a car accident, but they're not familiar with the internet, and maybe their niece or their nephew's doing the Google searches to find the law firm or the CPA or the internet marketing agency. If somebody else is doing those searches and then they come back and they type in the address, here's this company we're going to go with, that's what we call direct, where you type in, www.10goldenrules.com. So absolutely this stuff works. Absolutely it's measurable. And I'm going to take you through this presentation in more detail. So before I get going, a little bit about me and why I'm qualified to teach this stuff. I've written 4 books on internet marketing, and I'm developing another one very specifically to this area of law firms and professional services. I've spoken at a number of conferences. Remember those times we used to get together in person all around the world and go to conferences? This one was down in Sydney, Australia, and this was eBay's big conference. And this was a TV appearance that I made. And I'm generally considered to be an expert on this topic of digital marketing. I founded my company, 10 Golden Rules, 17 or almost 18 years ago now, and we're based here in South Florida. And we've been really specialized on internet marketing for law firms and professional services. There's my friend Darren Stewart at Stewart & Stewart. These guys are based in New York City, Greenberg and Stein. Conrad and Shear are business lawyers, business litigators. Scott Silver is a litigator in the securities arbitration space. And we did a case study with Scott for one of the webinars that you might have seen. And John Pankowski is a trust and estate litigator. So just to answer the question, we do work with all kinds of law firms and have really great case studies for a number of these folks. And some of them you'll see here today. I was really looking forward to doing this with Dylan. He's super sick, so he apologizes. But it's really cool that Dylan actually went to the University of Manitoba in Winnipeg, in my hometown. And he's with our partner agency, Snap Agency, based up in Minneapolis. And this is the last time we're all together. Back in the old days, we used to get on planes and get together. And this is everybody at dinner. So without further ado, let's talk about how to generate more qualified leads with Google PPC ads. And the topics we're going to cover today are, what is PPC? How do we set it up? How do we research what we're going to do? And some of the component parts of that. I'm going to really be precise around tracking and what we call PPC math, or the actual conversion metrics, how you measure it, how you know it's working, how you know if you're getting return on investment. We're going to go through some case studies, and we're going to touch on some of the new advanced strategies and things that are brand new today in Google. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a straightforward Google search, a screenshot of a Google search. Somebody search personal injury near me, personal injury lawyer near me, and Google shows 4 ads, typically 3 or 4 ads, right at the top of your search, whether you're on a desktop or a phone. And as you know, the right side ads have gone away. This has been 3 or 4 years now. So typically your website on your desktop is going to look the same as it looks on a phone. Now, there's another side to Google Ads that is called display. And there's several other networks that run these display ads. But if you were on like your local TV station's website looking at the news or looking at the traffic or the weather, you would see ads, and these are called display ads. And these ads were actually served by Google's display network. But for the most part, we're really not talking about that today. We're talking about the search ads where someone has typed into Google a query, a search query, which is often a question. We talk a lot about understanding the questions your prospects ask, and they've typed that into Google. So these ads are different. It's part of Google's advertising network, but we're not talking about that today. We're also not talking about Facebook pay-per-click. Now, we've become really, really fantastic experts at Facebook pay-per-click, but for the most part, it doesn't work for lawyers. It doesn't work for professional services. The reason for that is because Facebook advertising is great when you can identify people by a like characteristic. But Google ads are great when people type in a search query, like, find a business litigation attorney in Fort Lauderdale, and they've defined themselves. But Facebook targets everybody. It's really good when you know people like, motivational speaking, and we do ads that target people who like motivational speakers, and then Facebook's really good. But it's not good if you got to find someone in the general population who had a random occurrence like a car accident or a bad hip implant or something like that. So the first step when we're setting up a campaign is we do research. And there's a number of tools. This one is called SpyFu. It's my favorite. And it tells me how much your competitors are spending on advertising. And then it creates a virtual snapshot of all the other competitors who are bidding on the same keyword phrases. So they tap into a ton of research across the internet and they gather this information. In this case, this local PI firm is spending $56,000 a month. And this shows us who their competitors are who are bidding on the same keywords. And then we get all kinds of detail of what their ads look like, what keywords they're bidding on, and there'd be hundreds, if not thousands, of keyword phrases in this campaign. We can see the ads they use most frequently, and you can click on this little button and see their landing pages. So when we're going to develop a new campaign for an attorney or a professional services company, the first thing we do is we look at all your competitors and we reverse engineer their campaigns. In particular, if we know somebody's a smart advertiser, they've been advertising on Google for a long time, there's a lot of data we can extract from their campaigns to build the campaign. Now, hopefully you all got the checklist when you signed up for this webinar. If not, we can get it to you. But if you're just starting from scratch, here's all the things you want to do in the setup. And so now let's go and look at setting up a Google Ads campaign. So you go to ads.google.com, or you just search Google Ads. Of course, they're gonna serve that search result really well, and it's gonna pop. You're gonna sign in either with your existing Google account or create a Google account. Now, I'm not gonna go through setup in detail. We'd be happy to do that for you, but a couple things that are very important. Again, I'm often asked this question. Well, I don't want to spend like tens of thousands of dollars if it's not working. The beauty of Google is you can set a daily budget and they will only spend your daily budget to plus or minus like 5%. I mean, they almost come in, within $1 or $2 on the daily budget. So if you're just starting out, for example, you could set your daily budget at $30. There's 30 days in a month. You're going to spend around $900, but you can keep it under $1,000 and you can get started with a little test campaign. You're also going to set up your geography, and Google can be super precise in that. You're going to set up your geo targets, your day parts. So a lot of times we only want to be targeting, the day, the time. I just want to make sure this is working. Yeah, we're all good. You only want to target specific days. Like one of the things that works pretty well for law firms, professional services, is we run the ads from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And that saves some money, and it allows the campaign to be super focused when people are calling a professional organization. So it doesn't mean that there's not great car accident cases or all kinds of different mass tort cases during the night and weekend. But if you're trying to focus your money, and we'll talk about some of the reasons you would do that, one of the ways to do that is just go Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, or Monday to Thursday, 9 to 5. Now, the most important thing, and this is something to look at with your agency, if you're using this information to go back and make sure that your ad agency knows what they're doing, is they've got to have separate ad groups, and they've got to be what I call clean. So, for example, this is a campaign where we've got car accident lawyer, automobile accident attorneys, automobile accident lawyers. So all the accident phrases are in one campaign. And then the ads are all about auto accident lawyers. And then the landing page is an auto accident landing page. So the rationale here and what the consumer is looking for in terms of what we see works from a performance standpoint is we're looking for consistency. And so that the keywords should be consistent and relevant for the ads and consistent and relevant for the landing page. So for example, This is like detailed keyword setup, where you can, like, you don't want to use broad phrases like lawyer, because obviously if you're a car accident lawyer or you're a business litigator, you don't want anyone searching for a divorce lawyer. Or you could be more precise with a phrase like personal injury lawyer, but you don't want somebody searching for a personal injury lawyer movie if they're looking for that Rainmaker movie. So there's a lot of different ways you can set up the campaign. I don't want to go into the technicality of it today, but suffice to say that you can be very precise and get the right people, and then you can use negative keywords. Like, for example, if you're a personal injury lawyer, you would put the word movie or university course or books, different phrases as negative phrases, so people don't search for you, and they don't click on your ads when they're looking for a movie. They're not looking for a lawyer. Now, here is some of the design of the ad. I like this term that Dylan used called the anatomy of the ad. Here's the headline of the ad. So in this case, slip and fall attorneys in Florida, no fees if you don't win. And the description we've discovered. So this was like what Google Ads looked like, 5 years ago and before. There's been Google Ads just about as long as we've had a company. So 17, 18 years. And then now Google Ads are much more sophisticated. So really important, I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about getting people to call. So if they can click right here and call you, that's fantastic. Particularly if this is a mobile phone, that number is going to be clickable. So you want to use what's called a call extension. Now, extensions are free tools that Google has in their AdWords campaign, and you really shouldn't be doing Google advertising if you're not tracking conversions and if you're not doing some of these more sophisticated things, because it's very competitive today. It's very expensive, particularly if you're an attorney. So you want to have things like your location extension, the site linking extensions, and you see how this ad has taken up so much more real estate and has so many other clickable actions than these other ads. And in particular, this ad doesn't even have a phone number in it. This ad does. And then this is SEO. This is not an ad. But this guy's missing out, because if somebody's on their mobile phone, you definitely want to be getting phone calls, because those are so very powerful. I spoke a minute ago about the value of landing pages. So this is a landing page for an auto accident attorney. This is a home page. Now you want to be very precise, because if somebody's coming in looking for an auto accident attorney, or if they're looking for, nursing home abuse, you don't want them to have to go to your homepage and fumble around to find you on the homepage. So when you can control where they go from a Google ad, you take them to a specific page on your website that we call a landing page. You also want to make sure the mobile site works really well. It's responsive. So remember, how websites shrink to fit the mobile device. We see as many as 50 or 60% of calls, of clicks, traffic coming to the mobile site now. 50 or 60%. So it's more important that you're designing for this thing, for your cell phone, than you're actually designing for this thing, which is my desktop. So it's super important that you have a mobile focus to your Google PPC ad campaign. And this number here is probably the most important reason. And there's a couple things I'm gonna share with you today. And this is like one of the most important of all. And that is that phone calls, for lawyers in particular, phone calls convert at around 24% to clients. Whereas if somebody fills out a form on your website, it only converts at around 2%. Now do the math for a minute. You're going to spend, in one example we saw earlier, $25,000 on a campaign. You could have 24% conversion because people clicked and called you, or you could have 2% of those opportunities converted. Now, why is that? Well, first of all, when somebody calls, you can answer it right away. You can answer their questions. You can sign them up online. You can send them a DocuSign. If it's a super hot case, you're going to get in your car, or you're going to get your investigator in a car and go see them right away. If they fill out the form on your site, and maybe your intake team comes in the next morning and gives them a phone call, they might, if it was a good case, they've already signed, right? Like somebody's already gone out to see them. If they, if you're a business attorney or, a divorce lawyer or whatever, and somebody called another firm and booked an appointment to go see them, you're done, right? Like they've got an appointment. They're not returning your phone call from your form. So we've got to be hyper focused that the mobile site performs well. But even more important, let's go back to these site link extensions. You got to make sure you've got a phone number right there in your ad, a click to call opportunity that they can call in your ad setup, the way you set up the whole advertising platform. Okay, conversions. So very important. Like this is the second thing that's like, if you're not doing it, if your agency's not doing this, they're pretty much wasting your money. Like you're by fluke, the campaign might make some money, but you have to track conversions. So what that means, if somebody comes to the landing page, they click on the page, and then they get to the thank you page, that there's a little code we put on that thank you page. So this means they filled out the form successfully, they clicked submit form, and they get to the thank you page. It's very, very important that you've got the conversion tracking code on that thank you page. And then we do the same thing for calls and for chats. More about that in a minute. So the importance of that conversion information is it tells us, here's the different ad groups. Remember I said very specific ad groups, got an auto accident, a slip and fall, a wrongful death. The keywords in these ad groups are going to be precise to that subject area. The ads are going to be consistent and relevant to the subject area. And then the landing page is going to be relevant. And then we're going to measure how many clicks we got, the click-through rate, the cost per click, how many conversions, so how many turned into either a form filled out, a call, or a chat completed, and then the cost per conversion. We measure that very, very precisely in the campaign. Now here's how we do it. There's a call tracking software. We love this one called CallRail. And not only does it tell us when the calls came in, and we generally say a conversion is more than 30 seconds or 60 seconds on a call. We can also listen to the call recordings. So this gives us very good diagnostic information that you can use for training purposes, and literally you do use it for training purposes. And we also go in as the agency and we coach our clients on best practices for intake. Now the little chat boxes, they pop up, and everybody's familiar with these. Here's my little 2 cents worth on the chat boxes. 3-4 years ago, chat boxes didn't work all that well. As a consumer, you would start chatting with a company and you wouldn't get any action, or you wouldn't get any sort of interaction. The chat boxes work great now because over 3 or 4 years as an industry, the marketing industry and the business industry, we've got better at handling chats. We've written chat scripts. We've got very sophisticated people who are good at handling these chats. And so now the consumer uses chat. So when we add chat, this little chat box pop up to a lawyer's website, to their campaign, typically we get 20 or 30% more leads the next month once we've added chat. My personal theory again on why is that? Well, number one, as a consumer, we believe in it. Number two, there's companies that we use that actually engage in the chats with the consumer. And then when it's a lead, then they send it over to you and you only pay per lead. And as I said, a lot of consumers now are doing it on this device, and maybe their kids are watching TV, or they're at work, or they're in line at a bank or something. Like people are mobile and they're doing other things, and they can't speak to a personal injury lawyer in front of their kids or in front of their coworkers, but they can definitely do a chat, right? So that's why 20 to 30% of leads you're missing out on if you don't have the chat box on your website. So let's go through the research and setup portion. You can research your competitors. You can find out what keywords, ads, and landing pages they're using. And that's the first step we do when we set up a new campaign. I say we reverse engineer from the best in the marketplace. We're not spying on anyone in particular. As a matter of fact, we take all the keywords and we just dump them into one Excel spreadsheet. And then we look at things like landing pages and offers and design. We're not ripping off anyone specifically. We're just using the market intelligence, and we'll go out of the specific geographic market to build that intelligence. You go and set up your campaign at ads.google.com. You're going to set up the budget, set up your daily budget. $30 a day is going to give you a $900 spend that first month. You set up your geography, your day parting, and then make the ad group super relevant. So like I said, if you're gonna, if you're a divorce lawyer, you're gonna have like divorce lawyer, divorce attorney, divorce lawyers and divorce attorneys in one ad group. Then you're gonna have ads that say divorce lawyers, and then you're gonna have a landing page that says divorce lawyer. Now you might also have a real estate practice, and that's gonna be a totally separate ad group. You don't wanna mix everything together. You wanna take people to a specific relevant page. And finally, track conversions, okay? How many calls, how many chats, how many form fills. You should know exactly and precisely how many people came to your website from each of the different sources. And we can also track it back to the Google campaign. We know what keyword they searched. We know if they came in from Google display, from another advertising source, if you're doing Facebook advertising, etc. So tracking conversions, very, very important. And as I said, getting people to call, much higher conversion rate, very important, very critical. Now, we're going to get into a little more technical stuff. And again, you don't need to know this, but I think as a business owner, you need your agency to know this. So here's how you add the conversion tracking to your website. As I said, it's very important. And I can't tell you how many campaigns we take over from other agencies, and they've got the conversion tracking like duplicated or triplicated, or they've got like literally they'll have the conversion tracking on the landing page, and they think every time someone clicks on the page, it's a lead. It's not. They have to fill out the form or do a chat or do a call, and there's very precise ways we set this up. So here we're tracking, what is this, 9 different goals. We're tracking call rail calls, and we're differentiating actually. So we're tracking calls over 30 seconds in this campaign. We're tracking chat leads, form fills. This is another kind of call. We're tracking chats. So we're tracking chats and we're tracking chat leads, slightly different. And we're tracking the PPC form in English and Spanish for this particular lawyer. So lots of technicality there. We won't get any more technical than that. And as I mentioned, the marketing math. So in this campaign, we spent $25,000. We got 1,600 clicks or calls, and they turned into 291 leads. So that would be a call in the earlier campaign over 30 seconds, a chat completion, a form fill, $87 a lead. Really, really important. So we've talked a lot about conversions. So that's what Google calls a conversion. But if you're an internet marketing firm or a law firm or a CPA, what you call a conversion is somebody who's either signed on as a client or someone who's coming for an appointment in your office. So we also go through and we collect each of the calls, each of the chats, as I mentioned earlier, and we have the internal people track that for us, so we know exactly how many people came in. We know exactly how many people went from being an internet lead, what Google calls a conversion, meaning a call over 30 seconds, and how many people actually signed up or came in for an appointment. We did an earlier webinar where we talked about marketing technologies, and we had this great company, Smart Advocate, founded by Jerry Parker. I know Jerry signed up for this webinar. Hey, Jerry, if you're here. And he built this whole very sophisticated case management system that actually connects to the Google keyword. So you can find out how many people signed on as a case and what the value of those cases were, and then you can go back and analyze your keywords. So just a point to say, you don't stop at tracking conversions, you go right through to retain clients. And I showed you this chart earlier. This client's great because they give us the detailed information on how many calls, how many chats, how many leads turned into clients, signed clients. And on this, I just want to make this note. I mentioned here on average, 24% of their calls become clients. 24% of their calls become clients, but only 9% of their chats become clients, and 5% of the form fills become clients. So very, very important that we're giving people the phone number on the landing page. We're getting them to click right on the Google ad because we want them calling, and you want to be there 24/7 with professional intake, because that's really going to affect your marketing math. Now, if we sum this up, these guys spent $25,000. They got 291 leads at $87 per lead. They retained 51 clients, meaning the clients signed. Now, I put an asterisk on that because, as we know, some cases fall apart and you never collect any money. They don't settle. They don't, they switch lawyers, or they change CPAs, or what, they go to a different ad agency, or their check doesn't clear the bank. But if we say over all our cases we generate $3,500 per client, that means that we spent $25,000 to generate $178,000 in revenue. This math is pretty darn good. It doesn't work like this for everyone, but this guy is a home run. Now, before I wrap up, and I'd love to take some questions, so everyone please get some really good trick questions for me. I want to just touch on some of the new stuff, some of the advanced strategies that we're using, and some of the things that just fit better in this part of the presentation. So the first one is what's called a map ad extension. So I mentioned that there's a bunch of free extensions that Google allows you to add to the campaign. For this one, you've actually got to connect your location extensions in the AdWords campaign to your Google My Business listing. So again, that's pretty technical, but what it allows is for your an ad to show in those Google Map listings. Now, 99% of the consumers who like to click on maps, like some of the consumers are like, hey, I don't like ads, but I like the maps area better. 99% of them don't even realize there's a little icon here that says ad. I mean, it's so small on my screen, I can't even read it, never mind if you're on your cell phone. So they just click on the first map result. So we're getting tremendous results from these map ads. It's hard to get them to show because there's only one of them available, but you've got to do a little bit of technical setup where you've got to connect your Google AdWords account to your Google My Business, even to get in the game. And then you've got to be very precise about your geo and your keywords to get that to work. Dylan put a note in here to remind you that we did a whole webinar all about this Google Maps section, how to get your SEO, so you come up in this map section. It's really powerful, and how to set up these ads. So that's another webinar that you can watch online. Remarketing. So remarketing is very powerful. And it's also called retargeting. It's pretty simple. Like, a lot of people get confused by this. Basically means they came to the website and they didn't chat, they didn't call, they didn't fill out a form. And see, on this website, we're very focused on the call and the chat. And then later in the day, they go and check their stocks, because this guy's the securities securities litigator. And we see that we've got an ad coming up while they're looking at the stocks on Yahoo Finance. So this is remarketing. It means they came to the website and were able to set a cookie on their device, which is just a little number. And then when Yahoo sees that these guys earlier in the day or earlier in the week were on this website, they'll serve an ad for this website because they're trying to maximize their click revenue. And if you've been on a website, there's more likelihood you'll click than just clicking on a credit card or something like that. So remarketing is very effective. It should be a part of all your campaigns. And I like all the different flavors of remarketing. We want to be remarketing when people are on Google, Instagram, Facebook. So you can set up the remarketing code. Again, it's like the conversion tracking code. It's a little code you put on your website, and then you can, once you build up enough people, you need like 1,000 people to come to your website or your landing page, then you can start a remarketing program. Now this is new, and I love it when Google brings, I'm geeked out on this stuff. I've been doing this a long time. As I mentioned, 17, 18 years, we've had 10 golden rules. Google's got some new, brand new things that are really important, right? And this one's called Google Guaranteed. And as a consumer, you might not even have noticed it yet. And it's only for people who go into your home. So Google started a program where you can get certified or guaranteed as a company if you're a plumber, if you're do air conditioning, if you're a locksmith, was one of the first ones they started with, because God forbid some scammer is a locksmith and he's gonna give your keys to some criminals, right? So they've started this guaranteed program with background checks and all kinds of details. And in addition, the audio assistant will confirm if someone's Google guaranteed. So if you do a Google search, it will explain that these people are Google guaranteed in the audio results. So you can actually, ask Siri, hey Siri, who's the best plumber in South Florida? And this is what the ad looks like. It's got the little guaranteed check mark. So I know this is subtle, but I'm spending time on it because when Google makes a change like this, it can be a total seed change, right? Because as the consumer starts to realize, okay, these people have been vetted by Google, they've been guaranteed, and Google, in fact, has a $2,000 guarantee if you get ripped off by these folks. That's going to change the game, right? It's going to change Google. It's going to change search results. It's going to change our industry, and it's going to change your industry. Now, here's another one, brand new. Like, this is only a month or 2 or 3 months out of the Google beta vault, and it's called Google Screened. And there's a number of professional services, including legal, estate, and immigration, financial planning, real estate. So they're just rolling this out, and they're just starting to screen these companies. They're doing background checks, and we've got this Google Screened result. This one's for estate attorney San Diego. Here's one for immigration attorney Houston, and these are the first test markets where they're rolling this stuff out. But again, super important, right? You want to jump on it if it's available in your market, and right now it's only available in immigration and estate in for lawyers. But if you're in home services, you better have Google Guaranteed, because that's flushed out. It's all across the country, and if you're not in that top box and you're not guaranteed, I'd argue you're missing half of the best opportunities. You can't afford it in your PPC campaign. And then here's another one, brand new. This is right a month old. Google's actually putting images in Google Ads. So super brand new, but you always want to watch this stuff. It's what I call golden rule number 10, lead the trends, because the newest stuff gives you an opportunity to differentiate from all of your competitors. If you're one of the first ones to be Google Screened or Google Guaranteed, or one of the first ones to have a Google image, the click rate on that is going to be spectacular. The performance is typically very, very good. And then once everybody's doing something, like if you're the only guy who's got a phone number in his ad that's clickable on his phone, you're going to get those clicks. But if everybody has it, you're not differentiated, right? So it's when it first comes out, you've got an opportunity for 3 to 6 months before your competitors' agencies or your competitors figure out how to use this stuff. And finally, once you've got your Google campaign working, we always throw up a Bing and Yahoo campaign. This one's brand new for the guys I mentioned in Fort Lauderdale. And here, this is just an ad. It's a Bing ad, and it's right at the top of the page. And it's basically just taking advantage of the less sophisticated users on Bing. So let me just wrap up with a conclusion. I'd love you guys to give me some great questions today. So Google PPC, or pay-per-click, the first thing is you want a really clean setup. You want your keyword phrases to be in one nice tight group in one subject area. You want the ads to be relevant, and then you want the landing page to be relevant. Relevance is super important. And then you want to track conversions, not only people who sign up a form or call you, but you want to track people who turn into clients. And then you want to use that intelligence, and we do this all the time. We go back and we say, which portion of the campaigns worked? Did Google work better than Facebook, work better than remarketing? We're going to put more money into the stuff that worked and less money and eventually no money in the stuff that's not working. So that's the importance of tracking conversions, and tracking conversions right through to signed clients. You want to test advanced techniques. So I mentioned, I call it lead the trends. So for example, if you're a plumber today and you are not Google guaranteed, you're probably way behind all the other plumbers. So you want to get guaranteed. You want to get in that. It is a paid position, that guaranteed box at the top of the search results. But let's face it, if you're not guaranteed, and I think there's like 17 plumbers I looked at for my buddy Kirk the other day. There's like 17 or 27 plumbers who are guaranteed. You're missing out. You're behind the game, and it's very, very valuable to be the first person in. So if you're an attorney today, and you're in immigration or estate, huge opportunity to jump on Google Screened, brand new, cutting edge opportunity to differentiate from all the rest of the competition and get those top clicks. Remarketing, very, very powerful to test. What we find is, let's say it costs $87 in the example I used earlier to get a lead, a remarketing lead might only cost $8. So it's definitely something you want to put in place. Not huge volume for most of the attorneys, but in some categories, remarketing is really important, because people don't take action right away. They do research for a week or two. So your remarketing ads, those are the little ads on other websites, the weather, the stocks, the sports, the news sites. When your ad comes up, they're like, oh, yeah, I was meaning to contact that company. And they click the remarketing ad, they come back to your website, and that's when they sign up. And finally, it's not bad. Bing and Yahoo typically can come in a little less expensive than Google, especially if you have an older audience or a less sophisticated audience. A lot of people don't even bother setting up the Bing. And by the way, it's the same ad platform, Bing and Yahoo, but a lot of people don't even bother to set that up. But just because the volume's not there, 80 or 90% of the volume is going to come from Google, but that last 10 or 20%, if it comes in more cost effectively, brings down the overall cost of your campaign. As I mentioned, I did a case study with Scott Silver, and we called it the hockey stick. I'm a Canadian. By the way, I'm a Winnipeg Jets fan. We won our first game back last night. So I love to show a hockey stick, but even more, I love a business hockey stick. And it's an expression we use in business to represent the blade of the stick and the shaft of the stick, where a business chart shows that growth, where it creeps along and then it accelerates up the hockey stick. So this is an example of a case study for one of our lawyer clients where we had the blade, we took over their account. I don't know when this is, back in 2017, and we grew, and we went from, he was getting 2,000, 2,300 visitors every month to his website to 8,000 and 9,000 a month. He was getting, pretty consistently 27, 30 leads a month, conversions, either a call or someone filling out a form or a chat. And now he's getting 240, 202, 169 or whatever. So we've really hockey sticked his performance. And that's where you want to be. You want to measure this stuff, test, convert, and track. And every month we get better and better because we use the stuff that works. We get rid of the stuff that's not working, and we can bring you a hockey stick. So that's my interest in doing this, is to share with you that I'd love to help. I also appreciate any speaking opportunities. So if your industry does these kind of events, or maybe your local bar association is looking for Zoom speakers, I appreciate those referrals. And I'd love to help and set up a Calendly strategy session. I'll put the link in the chat. And if you'd like to talk to me about how we can help you with this business, I'd love for you to set up a strategy session with me. And Calendly is just a little app you can click and see my calendar and set up a meeting with me. Now with that, I'm going to pause this and just bear with me here. I'm going to open up the chat and see if we have any questions. Great to see some friends in here. Oh, Jeff's here, and Hal, Mark, Jerry, Josh, Tom's here. Hey, Tom. I think we were supposed to be in. We were supposed to be at a conference this week in the Grand Tetons. Tom and I would have been there. All right, so let me see. I just got to get over to the chat. Oh, there's also a Q&A function. If you guys want to ask questions in the Q&A, can I see the chat? I'm going to stop sharing so I can see the chat box as well. All right. Okay, so one of the questions was, can you manage your own chat? So absolutely you can. There's a couple different chat companies. There's two that we recommend. And the chat company we like the best. Sorry, my Zoom controller keeps disappearing here. The chat company, there's two chat companies we really like, and they're actually going to manage the chats for you. So I know most companies think like, oh, we're great at this and we can, we'll jump on the chats. What we find is these professional chat companies, you give them a script and then you only pay for a lead. So if somebody asks for your phone number, your address, or a link to a web page for a form or something like that, the chat company will take care of it for you, but they won't they won't charge you. So you only pay between like $15 and $30, depending on the chat company, for a qualified lead. So someone comes to your website, they're in your practice areas, and they want to talk to a lawyer, and they've got a case. You know, that will be a qualified lead, and they'll either get you right on the phone right away, or they'll you know, connect that person to you. And Tom asked a question. That's awesome. Safe to assume that Google screen coming to personal injury soon? I can only guess, but I assume it is. And there's very extensive background checks for the company and the employees. So it's probably going to roll out slowly, but it's probably coming to personal injury. Sorry, I apologize. We've got the Q&A and we've got the chat box. So you can either, and the way you get to it is scroll down to the bottom of your Google screen, and if you the Zoom screen, and it should pop up where you see the microphone and the video. You see a chat box or a Q&A box. Okay, thanks, Tom. Question 2. Do we or does Google initiate the Google guaranteed process? Yeah, you have to log in. So you have to go into Google and go into Google Guaranteed, fill out the forms, and there's other criteria, like you have to have a more than 3.0 rating in your Google reviews. We spent a lot of time talking about Google reviews in the Google My Business or Google Maps webinar. So very, very important to get Google reviews, and there's a number of products that help you do that. Very, very important. So to answer your question, you initiate the process. See, we got a couple more here. Let me just go to the chat box now. Can you explain remarketing again? Yeah, sure, Mark. So remarketing, somebody clicks on your ad, or they do a search, or they come to you through, you know, Avo or something like that, and they come to your website, and we've got conversion tracking. So we know if they filled out a form, did a chat, or they called a phone number with a tracking software. I mentioned we use this CallRail tracking software. So if they don't do any of those things, they leave your website. I always joke that, you know, a good website has a 97% fail rate, because 1 to 2% of people fill out forms. So if you can get 3% to fill out the form, or, you know, 6, 7, 8% to call or fill out a chat, you're doing really well. But you still had a, you know, 97 or 95 or 93% fail rate. So now remarketing shows them ads as they go to other websites, and you've probably seen this as a consumer. If you look at a pair of sneakers, or in the old days when we used to book flights, you would see that exact flight or those exact sneakers trailing you around the internet, kind of stalking you, if you will. And that's called remarketing. And typically, if our leads cost $87 to sign up, or to get a call or a form fill for a personal injury lawyer, the remarketing leads might come in at $8, $10, $12. So it's very important that you put that in your campaign. It's not huge for lawyers, it's not huge for PI, but in some of our categories, like our consumer business, retail, e-commerce, things like that, it's critical. You got to have remarketing set up in your campaign. How are we doing on time? Got a couple minutes left. Let me take a couple more questions. Back over to the chat. Bear with me. Can you? So, what's the difference between Google Ads, Google Display, and Facebook? So, the biggest difference between Google Ads and display ads and Facebook ads is Google Ads come up when you do a Google search. So you put in something like, you know, I'll get a totally different example. Maritime lawyer near me, or cruise ship accident lawyer. And you're doing a very specific search, and then you get Google results, what Google calls a SERP, search engine results page. You get a result on that Google page, and then you pick one of the ads or one of the maps or one of the SEO, the free SEO results, and you click that and you go to a website. The display ads would come up like, let's say you're on a page about cruise ships, or you're on an article about people getting COVID on a cruise ship. You can run display ads that say, I want to be on a website anytime they're talking about cruise ships and COVID. And you pop a display ad, which is like a graphic ad, like the old internet banners, for your website. And that's also how remarketing looks. Remarketing typically look like banner ads that come up on websites as you're surfing throughout the web. And Facebook ads are more like the display ads, where we're targeting people based on their interests, their likes, their habits, previous things they've clicked on. So you tell Facebook, hey, I want to target people who are interested in cruising, have clicked anything about cruises, they're interested in travel, and also they've been in a different location in the past 6 months. So you can target people who theoretically are interested in cruising and they've been traveling, and those can become your target audience. All right, bear with me for one more sec. Let me get one more here. Okay. Please explain the 24% from phone calls. Okay, the pretty straightforward, Eric, thanks for asking. So if somebody calls, if you can get them to click, like if you do a Google search right now on your phone and search like personal injury lawyer near me, you're going to see that some of the ads have a little blue activated phone or it's a little phone icon you can click. And so that's like a click to call, and you're getting a direct phone call. Very high likelihood you can sign that opportunity if you're a good case, or you can book an appointment if you're a marketing agency or a CPA or an architecture firm. You're going to book an appointment, and that person might go and do some research and look at some other sites. But once they've got an appointment booked, or obviously once they've docu-signed, they're not going anywhere else. So that's why phone calls convert at a very high rate. And if they fill out a form and you call them back, but they've already booked an appointment with somebody else, you've kind of missed the boat. So we find phone calls convert, anywhere above 20% to 30%. Forms can be as low as 1 or 2 or 3%. Now, some lawyers like bankruptcy lawyers or litigation attorneys, it's a different business speed, right? So people will fill out a form, they'll expect you're going to email them back or call them back, they'll book an appointment. So this is not true for everybody. But if you can get them to call, typically it's going to be at a much higher rate. And then somewhere in the middle are the chats. So like I explained, for example, like let's say, I'm here and I'm working and my kids are on Zoom school, or they're watching Disney or something, and I don't want to pick up the phone and talk about, I don't want to talk to my divorce lawyer, but you'll do a chat. I don't want a divorce lawyer, just to be clear. But in a case of a consumer, they'll do a chat as opposed to picking up the phone. So that's how that works. Anyways, I think with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I thank you guys so much. Oh, I was going to put the my calendar link in the chat. If anyone would like to, bear with me for one sec, I'm just going to open this up. If anyone would like to learn more about how we can help, or how we can set up your Google campaign, or even if you just want a free audit, I'm going to share my calendar link, and then you can just click on this. I'll just put it in the chat. You can click on this and set an appointment with me, and I'll be happy to do an audit of your campaigns. I gotta send it to all panelists and attendees. Better. So if you scroll to the bottom and click on the chat, there should be a little red icon there now. And if you click on that, you can see my calendar. And this is great. By the way, I love this app. It's called Calendly, like calendar with an L-Y. And if you click on it, you can see my calendar. You pick a convenient time, and then when you click the time and put in your name and your email and your information, it's going to send you an email with the Zoom meeting. It's going to send me an email with the Zoom meeting, and it's going to block my calendar for the time of our meeting. So it's like super easy. We don't have to send each other emails back and forth, and that drives me crazy. So I love that. So anyways, with that, I thank you for your time and attention. I look forward to connecting with many of you over the next several weeks and answering any of your questions. All my information, of course, is at 10goldenrules.com, TEN goldenrules.com. And if you click on the blog, you can see the previous webinars. We put the recordings up there. And again, shout out to Dylan. Thank you so much for helping me put this together. And sorry you couldn't be with us today.